Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, and we can be found on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. Search for the Hard Compound on any of those. Come and join in the fun. We're here to share a love of motorsport. That's all, with you, the fans, and we do that in the form of written articles 3 times a day, morning, lunchtime and evening here in the UK. And these take the form of race reviews, race previews, throwbacks, breaking news, any new liveries that are coming out, birthdays and all that kind of stuff. And we cover everything from F1 to IndyCar, NASCAR, rallying, bikes, touring cars and everything in between. So as I say, do come along, join the fun, search for the Hard Compound on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter, and come and join us. In case you hadn't noticed, we also do live video interviews just like this one. And just like this one, these go out on our Facebook, Twitter and our YouTube only. They're saved in the videos section on Facebook and in the live section on YouTube. We've done well over 150 of these. I'm not going to name all of the guests, but we've spoken to most of the British touring car grid, some of the support series as well. We've spoken with legends such as Mario Andretti and Jackie Oliver, Jackie Ickx, Hans Stuck, John Watson, Simon Taylor, the broadcaster, legendary commentator. We've spoken with people like Peter Solberg and Malcolm Wilson. We've spoken with guys who have won Le Mans and the Indy 500 in the IndyCar Championship, guys like Will Power, Alex Palou, Ari Lyondike, Alonso Jr., David Brabham, Stefan Johansson, Emanuele Pero, Andy Preo, and many, many more. This evening we have a fantastic guest joining us. To me, I call him Mr. Motorsport. He is the founder of Prodrive. He has won races and championships in the worlds of rallying, endurance racing. He's been a team boss in Formula One. Prodrive are, of course, at the forefront of all things good in motorsport and in the automotive industry these days. So without any further ado, we're going to bring him in. Please join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to me, a legend, Mr. David Richards.
Good evening, Richard. Hi.
Evening, David. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Well, firstly, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat this evening. I know you're very busy and you've just come back from the office. So thank you so much for coming on, having a chat this evening. I'm very grateful.
Well, looking forward to having a chat with you and seeing what you've got to say, what the questions you're going to ask me.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to get through, isn't there? I mean, you've kind of done one or two things in the last 40 odd years or so, or well plus. And we'll try and cover as much as we can, of course. But firstly, before we get cracking, I just want a little bit of housekeeping for the guys who are tuning in. Hello, everyone. I can see there's almost 100 of you tuning in already, which is wonderful. The comment section is working. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube or Twitter, type in some comments in the comment section and we'll do our very best to work them in. I'm sure there's going to be a few. But thank you very much to everyone who's already tuning in, to Sue and Tracy and Oliver and Defan and John Kane and Oliver Taylor and many, many others already. Thank you so much for tuning in. Very much appreciated. And we will work your comments and questions in as we go. Right. We've taken a breath. David, as I said, thank you so much for coming on. Absolute honor to have you on. How has the year started for you?
Well, I've just come back, actually. The Union Jack is flying outside Prodrive this evening because we won in Abu Dhabi today in the second round of the World Rally Raid Championship, Nasser Al Attiyah. Unfortunately, Seb rolled again. He rolled in Dakar. He's rolled the car again.
Oh, dear.
Which is very unfortunate. They were sort of running first and second, so it would have been a sort of hopefully a good result. But anyway, NASA's now leading the championship, and it's the Dacia is doing extremely well.
Fantastic. Well, that's obviously good. That's like great to hear on one hand, not so good on the other hand. But he's got a bit of experience, isn't he? I'm sure he'll bounce back from a roll or two. He's done rather well. Firstly, quickly, there is an elephant in the room. Some recent news that's broken in the last 36 hours or so. I know you can't say too much about it, but there'll be some more information coming on it soon, won't there?
Yeah, you're referring to the sort of the issue of Robert Reid and myself not being allowed to participate in the World Motorsport Commission meeting this week. And
yes.
As I say, it's you've rightly pointed out, it's a sensitive situation at the moment. I want the FIA to have a chance to put their side of it and to sort of try and redress some of the issues that we believe they've done improperly. So I'm not going to be drawn on it today, but I hope by the end of the week they'll have reconsider their position, and obviously the motorsport members of the UK, our license holders and members of the FIA, I'll be sort of explaining myself to them later in the week.
Yeah, super. Thank you for covering that. As I said, I've had a few messages in the last in the last day or so asking if we could talk about it, and I did say we couldn't, but I'm glad we've covered it, and hopefully things will come out in the wash, which will be lovely. Right, okay, we've got a lot to get through and not too much time to do it in, because as I said, you've done a whopping amount of amazing motorsport stuff, and I'm amazed that I've kept my notes to 4 sides of A4, because there could have been a lot more. But what I'd like to do is start right at the very start, because you're originally from Wales. I'm aware of that, and your first experience, I think, of piloting anything motorized was up in the sky, was it not?
Well, not quite. I was not quite. We used to drive cars and motorbikes and everything on the farm, and so I was very fortunate. You know, at an early age, we were driving up and down the lanes, and then I went out and passed my driving test on my birthday, so it's sort of 17th birthday, and then. But I was fortunate as well because I'd won a scholarship for the RAF as well to go, and I was going to do engineering at university, join the RAF as a pilot, and I went down for just for fun, just for a weekend for aptitude tests, and came out and they said, "Oh, we're giving you a scholarship. We're sending you to flying school." So I just sat my GCSEs in those days, whatever, O levels, whatever they're called, and off I went to north of England to Carlisle and Malcolm Wilson territory, just near his house, and went to a flying school there. And 3 weeks later, I had my pilot's license.
Oh, fantastic! And I did read somewhere you were the youngest person in Wales to have a pilot's license.
Youngest person in Britain at the time, yeah.
In Britain?
Yeah.
Even better. Very cool. So obviously the bug for motorized things caught quite early. But obviously you're kind of known for getting into rallying quite a young age. What was it about rallying that kind of drew you in?
Well, I think if I lived next door to Brands Hatch, things might have been very different, but we didn't. We lived next door to Clochynog Forest. And I've got 3 younger brothers, and when I was about 12, 13 years old, probably, my father took us all up to watch the RAC rally in those days, and we walked into the forest and sort of walked half a mile into the forest and came to the first bend we came to, 90-degree bend, and we sat on the corner there for first car through till the very last car. We were there for ages. We didn't want to leave, and I know exactly where it is. I could walk to it today. But the irony of it was when Ari and I won the World Rally Championship, that turned out to be the very last corner of the very last stage of the RAC Rally that year. So
wow.
It went in full circle.
It came full circle. I do love those sort of like serendipitous moments where it kind of starts and there's something later on in the career that that kind of links the two. It's obviously rally fan from the start, right on the doorstep. How did you go about going rallying? So I've got here that you had a Ford Zodiac. I don't know if you had anything before that.
That was my mother's car.
It was your mother's car, was it? Okay.
My younger brother and I I joined the local motor club literally 17, I guess. And in those days, there was sort of no social media or anything like that. So you joined the local motor club and we used to meet in the local pub and sort of have a chat on a Friday night, and then we do 12-car rallies, navigation events, etc. So I used to take my brother along, and we used to disconnect the speedometer on the car to tell my mother we were going to the youth club, and off we went. We used to take her car on navigation events and things like that, until I sort of took the side out of it on a bridge one night, and I was not allowed to use it anymore. So,
You're kidding.
I thought at that time, it soon realised that I was sort of, I probably maybe driving whilst being competent, I wasn't ever going to be a world champion. So I thought maybe I'd be better at navigating. And road rallies in North Wales were the thing in those days. You sort of, the big road rallies with sort of 120 entries, 150 entries were quite extraordinary. And so I used to do all those, and I sort of got a bit of reputation with local people and got sort of opportunities everywhere, and went on to sort of, it's the latter end of the road rallying era, the big motoring news road rallying era, and it was but great to have been part of it.
Yeah, fantastic. And obviously, excuse me, you were always on the co-driver's side, I believe, were you not?
After the first few events where I put my own car through a hedge and thought I can't afford to keep going like this.
Yeah, I've also co-drivers are just like a different breed, having complete trust in the guy next to you. And I've spoken to a few guys from the world of rallying, and I mentioned like Petter and Malcolm, who I've spoken to, and they've both said that they couldn't be a co-driver. So obviously, hats off to you guys that do it. Do you want to sort of skip forward? Obviously, you competed in the 70s with the British Leyland team and was competing in British rallies. One thing I was fascinated by there was it 76? You set up your own like consultancies, like a motorsport consultancy company, and launched a rally series out in the Middle East, which is fascinating to me.
Well, it's a funny story. I'd studied as an accountant. I did 5 years studying chartered accountancy, and when we got to the end of that period, I sort of said, well, I'm not going to go straight into accountancy. I'd like to have a year just what was my hobby in those days. I want to see if I can sort of do a few more events abroad and even make a living out of it. And so I was knocking on doors, trying to raise money for participating on events. And my girlfriend at the time, my wife now of 50 years, her parents had a flat in London, so I used to sleep on the sofa in the flat in London and sort of have to leave there early in the morning before everyone else got up. And I'd park my little Mini, as I had in those days, in Hyde Park outside a telephone box. No mobile phones in those days, so I propped the door open in the telephone box, and sort of that was my London office number. And I'd sit there all day waiting for it to call, or I'd go knocking on doors for people. And one day I went to Rothmans, the cigarette company in those days. It was, it seems strange now, but in those days it was Marlboro, Rothmans, all the cigarette companies sponsoring everything. And they said, thank you very much. That's an interesting presentation. Don't call us, we'll call you. And I went home and I got a call a couple of days later. Said, look, we'd like you to go out to help us organize a rally in the Middle East. Are you interested in doing that? Well, I had nothing better to do. So off I went. I was replacing somebody who'd actually been shot at the time in the beginnings of the Lebanese and Lebanon, Syria and Iran wars. And so I organized the rally out there, and that was the start of a long-term relationship with Rothmans, who sponsored. And you see 555 was a Rothmans brand or a BAT brand on the side of Colin McRae's car, and Rothmans on Jimmy's car, and so the relationship went on for about 30 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Love that. I love how these things start and then kind of like snowball and continuous partnerships. Now, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about here. I do want to skip forward to, you got to, was it just to skip forward to 1979? Obviously, you're still co-driving at this point. You switched to the Ford factory team in 79, and you met a chap called Ari Vatanen, who went on to be quite good. How did you come to meet him and be his co-driver?
I'd met Ari a few years earlier. He came over to Wales to compete on the Welsh Rally, I think in about 74 or 5, I can't remember when precisely. And he didn't speak much English in those days, in fact, very little English. But we got on really well, and we come from very similar backgrounds, small farming communities out in the countryside. and he ended up coming and staying with us. I don't even know how it happened. I got chatting to him at the end of the event, and he had nothing to do, so I said, well, you better come back and stay at my parents' house in North Wales, which he did. And we went on then to compete in Tony Fall's Opel team. Did a couple of events, and then up in Scotland, Scottish Rally. And then we went our separate ways. He went to Ford, I went to British Leyland, but we'd always kept in touch. And back in '79, the Ford team was sort of starting to close down, and there was sort of possibly closing Boreham, etc. And I brought the money in from Rothmans, and that made the difference for us. The funding for the program we got in, and David Sutton ran the team. Then we had a private team. I think it's quite rare for a private team to win a world championship, but we went on to win the world championship in '81. Yes,
absolutely. Are you still in contact with Ari, or are you?
Very rarely. I spoke to him yesterday. I think he texted me today about something. I haven't called him back yet.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well, I have got a bit of a surprise for you. Going to spring this on you and to everyone watching. I'm sure people are going to recognise the chap who's just about to hop in here. So I'm going to bring him in.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, David. You didn't call me. You promised. You didn't call me.
I'll get round to it later. I got the text.
I go to bed now because I'm 1 hour ahead in France. You know.
Yeah, and you've got farming to do tomorrow, probably.
I did the oil change in my JCB today. Would you believe it?
That's. I'm glad to see you're still doing those sort of things. Good.
Marvellous. Firstly, I do have to say, Ari, it's a real pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for the message. Was it 2 days ago saying that you'd like to hop on and just surprise me?
I couldn't resist that opportunity when I saw that you will be interviewing David. David said, "Well, I wanted to pose next to David." And I have to say that David, I mean, David, an age is taking a toll on you also. I can see that we met in Jamaica prior to.
We did actually. Yes.
Would you believe that my first foreign event, from outside of Finland was in Jamaica, '75, where David was with Andy Dawson, and I always remember this. Our first encounter was in a hotel bar, and of course I had literally come from Tuupavaara, from that little village in the Russian border, straight to Jamaica, and with my very limited English, and I introduced myself to David, and David said, "I'm David Richards. I'm a professional co-driver." I was so impressed with the statement. It came as a statement because I was so, well, maybe one day I could become kind of a driver. David was already a professional state driver, and of course we hit it off. And here we are.
What it meant, Harry, was I didn't have another job. It wasn't that I was earning money out of it. There was no other form of income.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, when we went to the Scottish rally, then David said that after a few corners, he thought as well, either this is going to be either make it or break it, and we did both. But in that rally, we did finish.
It was Harry's oldest schooner that he brought over from Finland and prepared himself. And by the time the end of the Scottish rally, there were holes in the floor and stones were coming through the floor. And I still remember the end of the event. He was in Aviemore, and Harry was man of the rally, and the prize for man of the rally was a gallon bottle of scotch, an enormous bottle of scotch.
Very true.
And Harry didn't drink at the time at all, so he sort of didn't.
Still don't drink whiskey.
No, nor me. But Harry took the bottle back to Tuupavaara.
Very true.
You put it in a cupboard or something.
I think my brother got hold of it because it just disappeared somehow.
We never know where it went. We never knew where it went.
Anyway, yeah.
That's
lots of good stories. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask if the whiskey is still anywhere, because I'm a whiskey drinker, but I think it's long gone.
Long gone.
That's gone.
Yeah, fantastic. First, I do want to say to Ari, I've actually been to your rally school over in Joensuu.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
When was that?
Oh, 2010, 11, maybe. around that kind of a time. So I've actually been to your rally school, which is an amazing facility. And I got taken out, and there's nothing quite like going sideways towards a tree on the snow at 70 miles an hour, but feeling completely safe. It's
Yeah. No, that circuit is still there, and quite well. I mean, local entrepreneur uses it for his own clients, but still you can have a ride and hire it, and he keeps his helicopter there now, and anyway,
Yeah.
there's a lot of sense of action in Tuupovara. Yes.
Fantastic. Super. While we've got you here, obviously you won the World Rally Championship together in 1981. Are there any kind of standout moments from that year, good or bad?
How long have you got?
I was going to say this could take a while. Is there anything that you that you really?
Well, David answers first.
There are lots of things I remember about that year. I remember. I don't know if it's that year, but the Thousand Lakes Rally was always one of the great events to sort of. We'd been second twice in Thousand Lakes Rally, and we were determined to win it that year. And I remember doing the practice that we'd sort of. I remember one place is very fast, and Thousand Lakes is incredibly quick, but there was a milk place on the left-hand side of play. You put the milk churns, and we're practicing this, and you could practice at full speed in those days, or near enough. And Harry said to me, when we got to this, he said, I think I'll have to brake when I get to this point here, because a bit of a brow and everything. I said, maybe on the day we can go a bit faster, and we'll see how I feel on the day. And if we practiced this a few times, and at night time, and went to there's a small jump just before it, and when we got there on the event itself, we got to that point, and the light stalk on the console was the opposite way round. So, so we landed heavily after the jump. The light stalk went down, and all the lights went out on us.
Very true. Ownin Pohja, famous Ownin Pohja.
Yeah, remember the corner. And I knew there was a lake coming up in about 100 meters and a sharp left-hand corner. I don't know how on earth we got round it. I've not got a clue how we got round it, but we did. And we're talking to win as well. That's more important.
No, one of the sweetest victories was obviously for Finn to win your first victory in the Thousand Lakes. You're in front of your home crowd. When you make a mistake in New Zealand or Acropolis and you don't win, I mean, it's not your country, and of course it hurts you. But there you are in your home country against your other Finns, and we have always been so. I'm quite a few of us, so you have no excuses, and you are judged by your own people. And then we had really big fights with Markku. Always he got away. He was able to, get off the line. I mean, so fast. So Friday evening we lost to him, and then the first night, and then Saturday afternoon, following night, trying to catch up with him, and didn't quite get. And then that 81, because we just as well, we could have taken foot off a little bit and make sure we get the points, because Guy Fregelen, our most serious rival, wasn't there. But no, we didn't. In the beginning of the rally, I was begging David. David said, "No, come on, Ari, we need to get points. Come on, stop. This is crazy. Won't end up well." I said, "Please." He was begging me to slow down. No, please, David, one more stage, please, one more stage. Let me have a go. And then that you don't actually play safe, go for the points, but you're the purest sportsman. You go for it. You go for speed. Like if it was the one event alone and no strings attached, and you just go for it, and then you win it. It felt very sweet. And I was, of course, in the army at that time. I mean, doing my national service. And Finnish Defence Force was really fantastic. Well, I respected them, and when those few days I was at the army, I mean, I really did well. But anyway, and then in order to pay back what they had done, I said to David, then I was shooting David Sutton at the end of the rally on Sunday evening, that no, by the way, we take this car, our winning car, back to our barracks, and I took it there, and we had lots of ground, and I all the officers and those who had been good to me, I mean, I gave them rides and paid paid off for having given me so much time off for my service. The things like that which will not happen today at all. And then another thing is, of course, there's a picture at the end of the very last stage on the rally, because we just have forgotten how long the rallies were in those days.
Yeah.
And it was come on, near your home. I mean,
Forest, yes.
it wasn't exactly it wasn't the Clocainuk, the last stage,
Yep.
Clocainuk 2 or whatever. Anyway, that was the very last stage, and there's a picture when David Sutton and myself, we hug each other, and you can see this relief, this incredible relief on my face, because I know, well, just a short road section to Chester, and it's all in the pocket, so nothing like we are actually winning now the championship, because I knew had we not won it, it would have been just because of my stupid mistakes. So this relief and the responsibility off my shoulders. It was a little private team. David got an incredible, like he's such a deal maker and matchmaker. So he got the Rotman's finance, and then David Sutton. I mean, we took in the bull by the horns, and David against Goliath effectively. Then hoof. So in a way, it was just a big relief.
But Hannu Mikkola was like a big brother to us. Hannu was in the Audi team that year, and it was snowing in some of the places in Penmachno and Central Wales, and Hannu was behind us for some reason.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And he came to Harry and said, "Harry, I've seen your marks. I've seen where you're going on the road. You've got to slow down. You've got to learn to drive more sensibly. You've got to win this championship." He was really quite upset with us and sort of trying to control the situation.
No, he was angry because when Hannu, he was very, very gentle and very cool. But when he got actually annoyed, he really was. Come on, and he literally took me. He shook me. He took my touched me my overalls and was, come on. He said, Ari, because he was for some reason behind me on some of the stages. So those marks are not the driving tracks of the this year's world champion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy, Anna. Great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Gentleman. Real gentleman.
Oh, that's wonderful. And just very quickly, and right at the end there, obviously, like David, you kind of clinched the championship on home soil. Obviously, you'd already won the Thousand Lakes rally with Ari, and clinching the title at home must have been a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, in Cheshire and Chester, and it was in those days. It's hard for people to understand now. Young people who see the rallies on TV, see the social media, see all the YouTube stuff. But in those days, Chester, the finish, thousands and thousands of people, and lining the streets everywhere you went. It was. It's hard to imagine, and you've got to look at some of the old footage to appreciate what it was like. Of course, the stages weren't particularly safe, with the people stood right on the corners and stuff like that, which we would never tolerate today. But it was, it was like a pilgrimage. People going to the RAC rally. I've got so many friends who I still see today who said, you know what, we used to pack our sleeping bags, get in the car. They'd be teenagers at the time, was the early 20s, and off we go for 3 days following the event around, and just grabbing us sandwich places and stopping at a pub and camping out in the forests. Amazing.
No, yeah, well, that's what the rallying at its best, and we are privileged having lived, having seen it, just around the country. No sleep, service cars, service vans having their parallel rally, spectators having their parallel rally, and well, I mean, lots of emotions, and as David said, people even now go back to those days, and well, that's what rallying it is at its best, and well, we were lucky and privileged.
Yeah.
I do love the way that you've used the word privilege, because I just have to say it is a privilege having you two both on the screen here at the same time to talk about the 81 championship. And someone has just said on Facebook, they said that the last stage of the RAC was run by the Clwyd
my local motor club,
which was the one you joined very early on, wasn't it? And someone has said this interview needs two or three parts with these two guys. Maybe we can sort that out, because we'll be here for hours, I'm sure. Just quickly, Ari, if you want to stay on for as long as you like, you're obviously more than welcome. And of course, the invitation for you to come on for your own chat is still very much open as and when you get.
Past Ari's bedtime now. He's normally in bed by this time of night.
No, maybe some of the stories, I haven't heard, David. I mean, I keep on following. I mean, it's very sure Rita will be shouting because she always blames me that, I keep her awake. She's waiting for me. I'm here upstairs. She's one floor further down. And where are you?
Karen's gone to Cornwall. So So I haven't even cooked myself any dinner yet. So I don't know what's. I got to go.
You cooking a dinner? Well, that will be a light version.
Yeah, it'll be baked beans on toast or something like that. So.
But come on. We need to come on. I don't know if you touch the subject, but you need to tell something, David. What is how did the World Council go on? What is where are we standing now?
I've said that unfortunately, due to various reasons, I'm not going to say anything yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But by tomorrow night, I think I owe it to the Motorsport UK people, to all our members, to give them an explanation of what's going on. So
yeah, very very understandable. That it itself is a message. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely right. As I said, Ari, if you want to sit on, you're more than welcome to sit. We are just gonna step on really, because it was shortly after that, David, that you went to the business side of things and set up what eventually became Prodrive. Was that always on your radar? Was it always a plan of yours to go down?
No. I mean, come on, David. David is a natural, natural businessman. Either you have in life, you either have flair for something, and you have to force yourself. And David doesn't have to force because David has always been, very good in spotting opportunities. And that's what is. That's how it happens. And you need to have a good, build up a good reputation, a good network of people around you, and you just need to act. You just need to act. Of course, life is full of opportunities, but most of the people let them the opportunities to go by and stand still. And but David spots them, and David has an endless energy. I mean, we come from David's home, driving to London. Well, how long does it take to drive from Bamberg from your exactly
2 hours, an hour and a half,
something like two hours, and it has happened so many times. I mean, during that 2 hour, he has with his how do you call it, his tape recording or whatever. I mean, you do, exactly something. You do something like 50 letters. You need to get you need to be concentrated when you are actually taping out your letters like that, and then you come to London, and one part of the work is done. But there's a lot of work involved.
But I enjoy it. I never get bored. I'm sort of always thinking of something interesting happening. I'm thinking already what's going on tomorrow, and we're excited about the weekend. And I surround myself with great people. That's where I'm lucky.
Sure.
I meet wonderful people, and I try to see the best in people all the time, and working with people, and we make it fun as well. And I went. When I was studying accountancy at the beginning, I used to commute to work. It used to be an hour to work, and I used to get. And honestly, every day was a grind. I really didn't enjoy it at all. And I said at the end of that period, firstly, I don't want to do this myself anymore. That's what I thought. But I don't want anyone who works with me or works in my businesses to feel the same way as I'm feeling about it. I want to come to work with a smile, thinking, "Wow, what are we going to do today?" And that's what I try and spend my time doing, motivating the people around me, finding things that really interest them and excite them, putting people in the right roles, not sort of doing things that they feel they're not good at or they're disappointed in. And I think that's what we all have a duty to do, to look after people around us and to sort of make sure that we contribute.
Yeah, and the quality, and when you come with the quality results, I mean,
Exactly.
success feeds success, of course.
You heard today NASA won in Abu Dhabi, Harry.
No.
Yeah, he won. Yeah.
So Nasser won.
Yeah.
Okay, it's incredible.
Seb put it on
where was Paul Seb?
Seb put it on the roof again yesterday.
No.
Very minor mistake. Very minor mistake.
Desert rallies are not really treating him lightly.
They're not, are they? You can win 9 world championships, and he should have won Dakar by now. He should have won it by now. Yeah. And he's.
When I sometimes prior to Dakar, when I called Seb and then we talk about that, but now I can't even call him anymore because he feels pressure if I call him before Dakar, and then I couldn't sometimes resist. Well, Seb, when he was saying, well, why I should really win and how this happened again, I said, David, I know Seb, and I know one person who won Paris-Dakar on his first attempt. I couldn't help. I should not have said it, but I did.
That's unkind. That was unkind, Harry.
Who was that?
No, with the smile on the face.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay. Very good. Well, okay, I let you off to continue. How long will your session be?
Well, we're not sure when we've got a heck of a lot to cover, but we'll do our best to cover it in the time.
Exactly. Even if you cover just a little bit of David's career, it will be.
You better go and look after Rita, Harry.
Exactly. I will. Okay, and have a glass of red wine.
I will.
Glass of milk, but red now. Yeah.
I will call you tomorrow. I promise.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, David.
Sorry, thank you so much.
Good night, and good night to all the audience. And thank you for the support over the years.
Fantastic.
Cheers, Harry.
Many thanks, Harry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's sometimes you sort of you make friends for life, and
Yes.
Harry is one of those special people that I was very fortunate to meet in those days, and and still a great friend.
Yes, lovely. And something I do hope you don't mind me springing that on you. I did run it through your team, and they said that you'd be happy to have Ari on. So
delighted, always delighted. We chat quite regularly, so I guess he'll be on the phone in the morning.
I'm sure he will. And I must admit, I never ever thought Ari Vatanen would be contacting me saying, "Can I come on for a chat?" I never thought that would happen. But we'll have to get him on for his own chat at some point. But
where did we get to? We got to the end of 81, didn't we?
Yes, 81, and we've got a heck of a lot to get through in a short amount of time. But yes, Ari, if you're still watching, thank you very much. That was fantastic. Nice bonus. So yes, you've obviously when you've set up set up Prodrive, and obviously grew pretty quickly because it became Prodrive in 84, didn't it? And it grew fairly quickly.
Yeah.
To the point where you had to move in 86, didn't you?
We moved down to Banbury. We were in a small lockup in Silverstone to start with. We started with I won't go into all the detail how it happened, but it's quite extraordinary how somehow I persuaded the same people that I persuaded to sponsor Harry and myself and do the rallies in the Middle East and then sponsor Harry for the World Championship. They said, well, we'll support you for your own rally team. And off we went. Had Henry Toivonen driving for me. He was I thought the best driver of the era, unfortunately killed shortly afterwards. But and then I had a friend of mine, Said Al Hajri from the Middle East champion. I was with him 2 weeks ago in Doha. I was out there, and we went on to move then to BMW after the Porsche era, and that was when we moved to Banbury, and. We were doing rallies all over the place. We were doing sort of French Championship, Italian Championship, Belgian Championship. Then the British BMW importer didn't want to do rallying. He said, "No, we're really into circuit racing." And so we thought, well, can't be that difficult to go circuit racing. So we know how to build a car, and we had some spare parts in the corner. So we built a BMW M3 race car with Frank Sittner, and we went on to win the British Touring Car Championship. I don't know how many times we won it. I think we won it 5 times, maybe 6 times.
Yeah, excuse me. It was around that time actually that I became interested in the British Touring Car Championship, and I did read somewhere that you prepared the BTCC M3s alongside the Rally
Yeah.
M3s, which is fantastic. In like my mind's eye, that's a terrific scene, with working on the same car for two different purposes, and just the differences and the nuances that would have had to be employed to get the cars set up, to the top level. You must have loved that.
Well, it was, it was being practical about it. You bought the BMW M3 in a kit from BMW Motorsport, and there were lots of racing parts and stuff that came with it, and so we just we had all the spare parts sitting in the corner of the workshop, and said, well, yeah, it can't be too difficult to build a racing car. And David Lapworth, who's our technical director, has been with me right from the word go. He sort of relished the idea, and off we went circuit racing.
Yeah, fantastic. And you had a certain chap called Frank Sittner, and obviously he was fairly well in with BMW and his dealerships. Now, Frank came on here for a chat a couple of years ago, and he still lives out in Italy. Very nice too. And he insisted on doing it out on his balcony with the sun setting behind him, and just so nobody was jealous, of course. He had a reputation of being quite a hard chap, and quite what's the word? Not blunt, but quite direct in his business style. But what I found was he's a very lovely man as well. He is a really nice chap. What was he like to work with?
No, he's a very emotional individual. Is Frank? He effectively paid for his car and everything. He gave to me. He said, "Look, I'll put the money in. I'll fund it all. Obviously, we want to bring some sponsors in. We want to get it self-funding in the longer term, but I'll pay for it all and get the thing set up."
Wow.
And so when we did all this, before the championship started, I sat him down in my office and I basically said to him, "Look, Frank, here's the deal. When you join us, we're going to treat you like a professional racing driver. That means you do what we ask you to do. You follow the rules. You're no different from anyone else, and we'll look after you. But don't think you're going to get any special treatment. You're the racing driver. We'll tell you how to win. We'll tell you what's required, and that's how we're going to get on. And that's the base." He told me years later. He said, "You know what? He went very quiet, and he said, years later, he said, nobody had ever talked to me like that before. Nobody had ever taken me and sort of said, this is how you're going to do it." And we got on really well, and we still get on very well today. We see each other quite regularly, and I share great experiences with him.
Yeah, super. And obviously that was in was it 88, wasn't it? When he won.
Yeah,
he won overall, but that's when the class points were the same as the overall points and things like that.
We won our first World Championship rally in '87 in a BMW in Corsica, and then we were running touring cars at the same time.
Yes, that was with Bernard, wasn't it? Bernard
Began. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yes. So obviously like a dual program there, and it all went rather well. And we'll come back to rallying in just a second. But obviously we had Frank won the title that year, and then they did away with the classes, I believe, a couple of years later. But James Weaver won the class championship with you guys, and then Frank Sittner won it again. So it was 3 in a row. You must have thought this circuit racing's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, nothing's ever easy in motorsport. There's always somebody trying a little harder than you that's going to work harder. So you can't take your eye off the ball for 1 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously the bread and butter, I guess, was still rallying, and it was it 91 around that time, 1990, 1991, 1990, I believe, where you partnered with Subaru, which they kind of weren't that well known in the UK at the time, really. But you got them on board. I guess you saw something with them, and they saw something in you that you could work with and make a real success out of, and it went on to last for many years, didn't it? Was it 17 years?
Yeah, 18-year relation. Most of our partnerships and things in motorsport have been very long-standing ones. Today we've been with Aston Martin over 20 years now. We've got sort of the Rothmans relationship went for 25 years, something like that. Subaru 20 years. So we do tend to sort of work at things, and we sort of try and the Subaru was an interesting one. I remember that years later when we won world championships with the car, and the importer in the UK, the managing director, a guy called Ed Swatman, said to me one day, he said, "You know what? I remember the old days when you turned up on our doorstep. we were selling pickup trucks to pig farmers, and now we're selling performance cars to petrol heads. He said it's just extraordinary, and it was if I honestly say to you, there's a book about it in one of the business schools. I can't remember which one it is now. That says this is one of the best examples of using motorsport as a marketing tool that they came across. How we just did it, and there are so many people you have to credit for it. There was a guy called Mr. Kuze from Japan. He was the father of the whole thing. He was the one who's the consistent person who kept it all together and did an incredible job. There was Mr. There was him. There was Mr. Jimmy Rambacheski, who is the marketing director of BAT, who got the consistency of the design on the car. Said, no, you don't change it. The car's going to be blue. It's going to be yellow writing. To this day, they sort of, the P25s, that when we built those cars recently, everyone wanted them in the blue. And so all these things, you surround yourself with great people who have a common vision, common plan, and you just make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the P25, that was launched at the Autosport show, wasn't it? I was actually at that show, and when it kind of fired up and was wheeled out, you could just see people smiling. It looked fantastic. It sounded fantastic. It was a terrific car. Just to hop back, I mean, obviously, people that will know about the era of rallying that we're talking about here, when you got Subaru on board, it was when a certain young Scottish chap called Colin McRae came on board with you. He was terrific for you, wasn't he? He was a driver, engineer, mechanic. He was absolutely terrific, and he obviously took himself and the Subaru, both the Legacy and the Impreza, to world beating levels, didn't he?
No, you got to remember our relationship started off with his father. His father drove a Metro 6R4.
6R4, yeah.
Previously, and we became friendly with him, and Colin was brought along, and Colin would come along to us, and we'd sort of say, well, you're going to Greece to drive that van to Greece, and you're going to be sort of mechanic for sort of helping out with Marco Alen for the weekend for Acropolis Rally. So before he was driving for us at all, so he was helping out. He learned his way around the cars. He was a great all-rounder, and he helped build a team around him as well. He's that's what helped him enormously. He had the team absolutely 100% behind him, and you knew that he was always giving 100% himself.
Yeah, and obviously that partnership of him and the team and everything, and the car and everything that you guys were doing at Prodrive, it all paid off handsomely. Obviously, was it 92? He actually just dominated the British series. I think he won all the rounds that year, I believe, or was it the year after, maybe? But obviously, we all know him from 93, 94, 95 in the World Rally Championship. That must have been a terrific time for everyone involved.
It was very exciting. We sort of, it was a car that we were totally responsible for. We developed the car. It was the whole team was young. There was nothing we couldn't do, we felt, in those days. It was literally sort of set us a task, we'll do it collectively as a team. I've always felt that as individuals, you'd have never even thought to attempt these ideas. And I remember going to speak to Subaru, speaking to the president of Subaru in Japan about our ambitions for the year ahead, I think 95. And I went in there and said, went to the board and said, well, this is the year we win the World Championship. And I went out after the meeting, and Mr. Kuze was with me. He was the man. You can't really say that to my colleagues, the board, because we're against Toyota, Ford, Lancia, all these big factories. We're just little Subaru. So, and the great pride when we did win the championship, it changed their whole confidence in themselves. It was a great feeling to see, to be part of.
Yeah, and that, and also we've all seen the scenes with Colin in Chester and all that. Which was absolutely. I don't like the word, but it's become iconic in rallying, especially in this country. Absolutely superb. And you won the manufacturer's title that year, same in 96 and 97. A terrific time. And someone I do need to mention because he's from my home town is Mr. Richard Burns, who again won in 2001. Again, thoroughly deserved. He'd come close a couple of times and had a few DNFs. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying. But that all came together in 2001, didn't it? And nice to get another name on the World Rally Championship trophy.
Yeah, it's good. Richard was so different from Colin. He was, Colin was just flat out all the time. That's all he knew, and he was very flamboyant. Richard was far more calculating, far more methodical the way he went about things, and he richly deserved the championship. And it didn't look like it halfway through the year. By the early part of the year, I thought this is never going to happen, but it just came so right towards the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it was great. I mean, obviously, being from my hometown, I always had a bit of a soft spot for him. So it was terrific to see him win, obviously with the team as well. One more person I need to mention, Petter Solberg, who's come on here in the past. Tremendous character. Absolutely love the guy. Again, a different kind of driver, but knew how to wring the neck of a car without damaging it, I guess.
Yeah, well, he's a very flamboyant individual, Petter. He's sort of very, very emotional. I think you needed to know how to work with him to get the best out of him, get the car that he wanted, give him the confidence that everything was right. I think small things sort of tipped the balance for him. And but on form, when he was on form, there was nobody like him at all. And the theatre and the style and the way he embraced the audience, he took everybody with him, and a great individual.
Yeah, absolutely a terrific driver, very entertaining as well. Just very quickly, I mean, very sad subject. Obviously, we've lost Colin and we've lost Richard. It must have been, and the circumstances around their passings, huge shock, obviously, in the case of Colin, and just terribly sad with Richard. I believe it was 4 years to the day, wasn't it, after he won his championship? I don't like to dwell on these things, but it must have hit hard, because obviously with the relationship that you've had with both of them.
I think unfortunately, and thank goodness now, motorsport is far safer than it ever was in the past. Although ironically, many of the drivers that I worked with weren't killed in motor racing accidents. There were other circumstances. But I'm here in my study in our house in the Cotswolds, and I look around on the walls, and I've got pictures of Henry Toivonen and Possum Bourne, Richard Burns and Colin McRae, and they've all sort of, they've all passed a long time ago. And you think here, I've got to make the most of everything because, I owe it to them. They were part of our history, and sort of carry on the stories of them and the things that they achieved for the team. And they really helped make Prodrive what it is today.
Yeah, that's a lovely sentiment. Love that. Just quickly on Colin, someone has said that Colin drove for Prodrive in the BTCC and took Matt Neal out. Because BTCC.
I remember that day. Matt Neal's father wanted to wring his neck off. He told me he was chasing around the paddock looking for him to try. We had to hide Colin and get him out the way. His father was a big fellow as well. So,
yeah, well, they're both large, aren't they, the Neals?
But then Colin was a good racing driver as well. Maybe that occasion in Knock Hill was not his best day, but he went on to run a Ferrari with us at Le Mans, and did very well at Le Mans. So it's he's the most extraordinary all-rounder.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, someone's just said we'd like to see Prodrive and Subaru in a GT series. That'd be interesting. That'd be fun.
Yeah, if they made a suitable car.
Yeah. Maybe. Just very quickly on the BTCC again. We've touched on the rally and we'll come to it again shortly. I know there's a lot of BTCC fans in, and they'd kill me if I didn't bring it up. Was it after 92 with BMW? Went back in 95 with Alpha, who had done so well in 94 with all the bits and pieces they had on the car. Just quickly, how did that come about? And was the BTCC something you were looking at getting back into?
Well, I'd had a long-standing relationship with the Italians, going back to actually my early days. Were about 20 when early days after I did a year of rallying co-driving. 23 years old, 24 years old, I somehow managed to end up as the manager of the Fiat team and running the Fiats for Marco Allen and in the European Championship. And so later on, we kept friends with all the Italians, and they wanted to come to UK with Alfa Romeo for the British Touring Car Championship. We arranged everything. They stayed in a local pub just down the road from us, which was with an Italian chef, so they were looked after there. And then the year afterwards, when they went home and having won the championship, they said, "Well, you can run the team now for that." And they think. I think Tarquini was one of our drivers, and Simone, and they had all sorts of people. We had a great bunch of people. It was a great period, that Alfa Romeo. I don't think we didn't cover ourselves in glory that year, but we certainly had fun.
It was. I mean, I remember being a very enjoyable season from a fan, like looking in. And you had Derek Warwick on the team as well, and Derek.
Well, Derek, I forgot about Derek.
Yes,
Derek. I got Derek rallying as well. Because that was the early stage of Subaru, and Derek wanted to was interested in doing the RAC rally, and I think because Derek Bell had done it the year before, a couple of other people he knew done it, so I'd really like to do that. And so I said, "Well, we'll put a car together for you. You can drive in the Subaru team." So I found a co-driver for him. I think Mike Nicholson, an experienced co-driver, or was it Rowan Morgan maybe, and off they went. They did practice. They did everything. And he came to, "I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm really looking forward to RAC Rally to be a step up into the unknown, but I'm really getting the hang of it." So, well, I'll tell you what we're doing. Next week, we're doing a final test down in Mid Wales with Marco Allen. Why don't you just come down for the day and just see how we get on, and just, get in chat to Marco. He'd probably give you a few ideas. So we went down, he drove his car on the stage, and he came back and said, "Right, I'm really up for this now. This is looking good." I said, "Well, why don't you just go with Marco? He'll give you a run round and you just see what you think, and maybe you might pick up something." He came out of the car after being with Marco. He said, "I want to go home. I don't want to do this again. This is just madness. There's no way I can do this, anything like that guy." And he was quite taken aback by it all. And Derek did very well. He acquitted himself extremely well. He was running in the top 10 until he hit a small concrete bridge, I think, in Kielder Forest, and that was the end of his event. But I often joke with him about that again.
Yeah, terrific. I mean, I've had a couple of chats with Derek, and he just sort of he does mention the rallying, but not in any great detail. Bless him. No, that's terrific. And just another couple of bits on the BTCC. Obviously, you then went with Honda. And it showed sort of promise, but there was a bit of bad luck, I think, for Peter Cox, wasn't it? He just seemed blighted by rotten luck, I seem to remember. But James Thompson was very, very good, and he's another great guy to have on board.
Yeah, no, I remember both of them very, very well. James, his father, I co-drove for him in rallies in the early days. His father was called Piggy Thompson because he had a pig farm, and from York, just outside York, and I did a few events with him in, I guess, in an Escort. I can't remember now precisely, but and then James, I'd known James since he was sort of a teenager or younger probably, and then when he came and joined us, and Peter Cox, of course, he went on doing sports car racing with us later on.
Yes, absolutely, and did rather well at the GT in GTs and at Le Mans. One thing I do have to mention, though, 2000 with Ford, the Mondeo.
Yeah.
I've actually got a model of one of the cars just up on my shelf there. One of my favourite touring cars ever. It just felt right, Prodrive and Ford, and like certainly in 2000 when it all came together.
It was they'd had a tricky year the previous year with the engines. It's a very complicated engine, little V6, and the whole packaging of the car. We had a great team at that time. We had, I remember sort of the likes of Dave Bembo, George Hadchapel, people like that. And of course, we've got Alain Menu and Anthony Reid as the drivers. So we had a great lineup. And going down to that last race, our two drivers, I think, if I remember correctly, were virtually on equal points as they went into. And the very last race was a night race as well at Silverstone. Yes. And I think Alain thought he'd blown it. He thought he wasn't. the previous round he'd sort of not done well. Something happened. I can't remember what, and he just pulled it off. And it was one of those really sweet moments. I know it's always difficult in a team when your other teammate finishes second. It's quite tough for him, but the car was brilliant that year. We won the manufacturer's title and the driver's title with Alain.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously, 2000 it was like a 1, 2, 3 for the for all your drivers as well, which I think is unprecedented. I think actually just a terrific season. Obviously, there's so much we can talk about. I am very aware of the time and things like that, so I do have to just skip forward a few years. Sorry, actually, just to go back. Actually, Formula One. We have to talk about Formula One and your own personal exploits therein. Now, it was Benetton, wasn't it? It was the first sort of where you went in there. I did read somewhere was it BAT were wanting to start up their own team, and you said we need to buy a team, and that's how the Benetton situation arose, was it not?
Well, it's similar to that. BAT wanted to start their own team, which ultimately became BAR in about 2001, 2000 maybe. And they asked me, first of all, what should they do? What did I recommend? And I looked at the opportunities and I said, the real answer is to go and buy the Benetton team down because they're the right, they've got a competitive team ready to go, take it over. And, so I went to see the Benetton family down in Italy, negotiated terms on which we might be able to acquire the team, but it wasn't a clean purchase. It was sort of hard and earn out, and there were lots of complications about it. And the BAT people said, no, we're not going to do that. Sorry, it's we want a clean sheet of paper. We want our own team. So I thank them very much. That was the end of the discussion. But I got a call about 6 months later from Bernie Eccleston saying, David, you got on quite well with them. Any chance you want to take over and run the team? They want to mentor their youngest son, Rocco, to come into that business. And could you do it for them? So I went down to see them and ultimately ended up running the team for a year while we sort of, it was a challenging year, I have to say. The dealing with some of the emotional side of the Italians was quite tricky, and it was a period when other teams were coming to the fore. We were slightly on decline at that time as well because of sort of various reasons, and it was just the transition where the big car manufacturers were coming in as well. Excuse me, and they were spending a lot of money, and the Benettons have been used to sort of having it on a very economic level. They got a great deal when they won the championship, probably the cheapest world championship anyone's ever won, I would have thought in those days. And so the world was changing, and that was the team was sort of quietly going backwards at that time. But it was a great learning base for me. It was my first year in Formula One running a team, and I made a lot of mistakes and learnt from them. And so when I came back next time, when BAT came to me and said, would you take over our team? I brought in a group of people with me. I didn't go in on my own. I brought in a few people around me. I've always have been a team player. I don't do things on my own. My wife says I can't change a light bulb on my own, but whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But I love having the people around me that I trust and I'm comfortable with. And we went into BAT, the BAR team, and we hit the ground running. We had to transform a team that had come from zero, just being started. It was a sort of didn't have a clear ambitions or vision. And 3 years later, we were second to Ferrari in the World Championship.
Yeah, which to me is one of not overlooked, but it's kind of undermentioned. That kind of rise that obviously you running the team and with BAR and the drivers that you had. It's a really overlooked achievement, I think, because obviously the team were pretty strong, but you took them up to a terrific level. And there's a couple of people I want to ask about, though. Jacques Villeneuve, we know that Jacques, it's apparently, I've not met Jacques, I've never spoken to him, but he is not a divisive character, but you have to sort of get on side with him. How was he to work with?
Well, the problem with Jacques was that his management, and so often the case that sort of management of these racing drivers get between you and the driver and not very helpful. And so I think he was misled and led astray slightly by them, because in subsequent years you know, when we're both a little bit older, a lot older, possibly, we become good friends. And but in those days, he saw me as sort of, you know, he didn't like the authority I brought to the team and what I was trying to do with the team. And he, you know, I didn't treat him with perhaps the reverence that he expected. And so we had a challenging year or two together. But as I say, all came good years later when he came and had a chat with me, and we've been out to dinner together since then. And we always have good chats in the paddock whenever we meet these days.
Oh, super. Speaking of characters, probably the complete opposite kind of character. One of my favorite human beings I've ever spoken to, Mr. Takuma Sato. Absolutely love that guy. He's probably, was he 47, 48 now, and he's still racing, and he still talks like a 7-year-old who's just seen his first racing car.
Yeah.
He's a terrific guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I haven't seen Takuma for a long time now. You know, he was obviously part of the team in those days. He was quite young. He was very, very aggressive driver. So we had some big accidents with him. But as you say, a very likable individual, and I've been so pleased to see him do so well in America since then.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got his 2 Indy 500 wins, which is great. I actually spoke to him last year, and yeah, he's just lovely, lovely chap. One guy I do have to talk about is Jenson Button. Obviously, he was the kind of the catalyst for that strong season in terms of drivers. Plenty of podiums, that terrific drive in Germany that he had. I always think it was that season that really was almost like a breakout year for him. That year, he put himself on the map big time, didn't he?
Yeah, he'd had a difficult start with Renault, and the opinion was that he was sort of, you know, he was on his way out, and that wasn't going to make it in Formula One. But I'd known him for a few years before that in karting as well, and I needed a British driver. The thing I'd learnt about the McRae era was that the team gels around. You need a driver that the team will totally gel around. And the only person I've seen that's really done that to a level that I still think is the best example ever is Michael Schumacher. He melded a team around him because of his work ethic, because of his way that he would just embrace the team. And, you know, he'd be playing football with the mechanics. He really was part of the team, and they just loved him for it. And we managed to achieve that with Colin, with Subaru. And to a great extent, we did that with Jenson as well, I think. And that was the ambition. And that was how you need a catalyst. You need an individual that they believe in, that they can build around. And that's what took us to a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did actually read somewhere that you said that there's nothing worse than getting home after a race weekend and you finish second. Jenson had a few second places that year.
We did, yes.
We were all willing him to get that first win. I mean, obviously, it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? I guess you must have been pleased with the progress that was being made and the results you were getting, but not quite getting that win, which we would have all loved to have seen.
Yeah, but you've got to remember we're up against Michael Schumacher and Ferrari.
Who were quite good.
Michael was at his prime in those days. He was absolutely doing so well. And it's ironic that Jean Todt was the team manager in those days. And Jean Todt was the runner-up to us, and Harry and myself, in 81 in the World Rally Championship. So he got his own back on me then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's terrific. It was great to hear insights and things from that time. I did see, actually, which ties into the timeline here, very quickly, a comment here from Andrew Bishop on Facebook. Hello, Andrew. He says, opinion on your adventures in V8 supercars in 2002 with FPR and Craig Lowndes. Big fan of Craig Lowndes. I like him.
Yeah, I'd ended up buying a company in Milton Keynes, actually. Tickford company, which was produced special edition cars, etc. And part of the deal was a company out in Australia, and it was a joint venture with Ford, building their high performance road cars, and they were doing it very well. And they were sort of great sales, and it was a great business. And but it seemed to me that, you know, building high performance road cars but not having a race team alongside was a missed opportunity. And so I went out to Australia, and we acquired another team. We sort of built it up, and I used to go out quite a lot to Australia on the V8 program, and sort of with the team. And it's unfortunate we never won the championship during this. A very tough championship to win. Those days it was the real V8 series, and it's changed quite a lot over latter years. But it was the atmosphere there, the tribalism, if you like, between the Fords and the Holdens is quite extraordinary. And
it's on a different level, isn't it?
I think one of the races, if you've got to go to, you write a few races down over the year. One of the ones you've got to go to is Bathurst, the 500 there. It's a great weekend and very special.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a terrific, and obviously, I believe it was the first. Ford became the first factory team out there since about 1970 something, didn't they? Because they didn't have factory teams, and obviously, with what you guys were doing, made them a factory team. That's superb. Okay, other things I need to touch on. Le Mans. We all know it's the biggest race in the world. We love Le Mans, and we touched on the Ferrari program, which I think you took on early in the 2000s. With the
2003.
2003. It all kind of went rather well. I mean, everything you touch seems to go rather well. But you got that first win at Le Mans, the class win. That must have been a big one.
The first one,
notch on the belt.
Yeah, that with the Ferrari was very, very good. That was a sort of an amazing story of a customer of ours who bought rally cars from us, BMWs, went racing with a Ferrari and thought the Ferrari wasn't particularly good. Could we improve it? And my guy said, let's just start again and let's build one for him. And that's what we did. And that was what really led us on to Aston Martin program in the first 2004 and the Sebring. We just went out to Sebring with a brand new car, and quite unheard of. And, one of the toughest races you can get to. It's such a tough circuit, and it's concrete, and it's very hard on the car. And we won there. And of course, we've run. That's over 20 years ago now. So we've been running those cars ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also got to win on the car's debut, wasn't it, at Sebring? And there was a win at Le Mans in 07 with David Brabham and Rickard Rydell and Darren Turner. And then there was another one, 2009, in those golf colours that we all love. It's just like the Aston Martin journey has been. It's been amazing, isn't it? And like what's been achieved as well.
Yeah, it's still one of our goals, an unachieved goal that to try and win Le Mans outright. We've run the GTs for many years. We were fourth with the Lola Aston Martin, which we ran, which first petrol car behind the Audi diesels, and still we've had great results with the GTs, and many. I think we've had seven GT wins at Le Mans. We won the World Championship, I think, half a dozen times with that as well. But to go there and to do it outright would be one of those unfulfilled ambitions, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd all love to see it if it could come together. It would be a terrific thing to see. Just a couple of bits I want to pick on just before we begin to wrap up. Something I did spot, it was actually on the website, and I wasn't aware of this. You actually did the fastest lap of the TT course on four wheels in the Subaru, which is fantastic. So obviously, we all associate the Isle of Man with motorbikes. I saw it was 129 miles an hour average in a car around the Isle of Man TT. That is one superbly set up car.
Well, it's Mark Higgins. Well, it could have gone faster. It was Mark Higgins in a Subaru, specially built Subaru for the job. And I went over to sort of witness this, and they'd had I think the first, they were giving them runs at the end of the day when they had a bit of a window of time. It's just before they opened the roads again. They were allowed one run or something. And I think the first day was wet and they didn't really get a run in properly. And then when I went over, they'd had one sighting run, and then they'd had a proper quick run. That was the figure, 129 miles an hour, remembering the bike record at that time, about 134 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so Mark had said, well, we put the active aero on the car. We had active aero, it wasn't operating on that first run, and we do a few other tweaks to the car. He says, I think we can beat the lap record, the bike record. I was getting a bit nervous, to be quite blunt with you. I'd sort of looked at this car and thought, if this car, the circuit is set up for motorbikes. It's not set up for cars that, it's a sort of car that weighs, 1,200 kilos or something, or probably more than that. And if that went through a wall or went into a shop in the middle of the town, it would cause chaos. So I sort of, had a quiet word with everyone, and I think we abandoned it quite sensibly before having that final run. I think the organisers were as pleased as I was that we didn't do that. We got the record. That was good enough. We did not need to do any more.
Yeah, we didn't need to have any damage or anything like that. And you did something similar at the Nürburgring, I believe, as well. But
we've done that with Subaru. We've beaten the lap record at Nürburgring with the Subaru, and we've just done it with a Chinese electric car last year with Zomi, and that's beat the lap record there.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Peter Dumbrek as well. He had the record before in the electric car, which is, just watching the footage of those cars, you kind of find yourself just gripping onto the seat, because it just feels like the speed of the thing is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. Okay, three more things. Before we let you move on, I'm going to test my pronunciation here. The Transfaragasian Pass in Romania, however many turns it is, 600 and whatever it was turns, 52 miles, and your car did it in 41 minutes. Again, it's similar to the Isle of Man kind of setup. What an achievement! It's amazing.
Well, after Subaru stopped the World Rally Championship, they still had this image, and they still do for generations of people, about doing exciting things and doing sort of, following on from Colin's exploits to a certain extent. So we did a whole range of promotional ideas with Subaru of America. So we did that pass, which was sort of fantastic. We did the Isle of Man. We took the car down the bobsleigh run at St. Moritz. We took it down the bobsleigh run at St. Moritz to see what it would do. And so all sorts of crazy ideas, and we've sort of they haven't stopped yet. I think there might be a couple more up our sleeve on that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm intrigued. Right, we'd love to see something like that. Actually, just quick, I've just seen a comment here from Craig Homer. Good evening, Craig. I forgot to ask this. There was a possibility of a Prodrive F1 team, wasn't there, with McLaren and the sister team like that? Just very quickly, how close was that to coming to be?
It was literally up to. We were literally within a week of sorting it out. It was basically, but it was quite complicated at the time, because I remember going to see, it was 2009, if I remember correctly, and I remember seeing, was it 2009? Or maybe it was the previous time, 2006, I can't remember. We basically had an agreement with McLaren that we would run a sister team to them, when nobody was doing that at the time, so not like Red Bull are today. Because the advantage of it was they were reducing the testing, so you'd suddenly double the testing if you had two identical cars, and you'd put young drivers into our team. We developed it's at a time when sponsorship, they had excess sponsorship, so you could have shared sponsorship across the other car. And so when I put forward the proposal to go to Formula One, it was accepted that we would go there. Bernie Eccleston sort of said, it's a good idea working with McLaren. You get last year's cars and it'll all sort of work out. And so no, we're not doing that, Bernie. We're going to run the current car alongside them. And he said, well, that's, how on earth are you going to do? How are you going to get the money to do that? So I think we'll find a way of doing the money. So eventually, when everyone realized what we were going to do, Frank Williams got quite sort of concerned about this, and basically he put the kibosh on it with Max Mosley and the FIA for various. Won't go into the technicalities how he did it, but it was, he delayed it long enough to make it impractical for us to be able to do it. So it's very disappointing. I think that would have really been well, maybe we would have been bankrupt by now. Who knows? But at least it would have been fun. We'd have had fun trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we'd have loved to have seen that, but yeah, unfortunately not. I guess given the current Andretti situation and the debacle, I guess it's not anything that you would consider at the moment.
No, it's the world's changed since then. You know, those days were, you know, it's only 15 years ago thereabouts, but the world now is very, very different in terms of you've got to be a multi-billionaire to bring the team on and sort of put it on the grid, and you know, it's a very different set of circumstances.
Yeah, which is a shame. I have just seen in the comments a chap whose name is Rally Mono, who's listening from Costa Rica. Hello, from Costa Rica. That's very cool. Hello. Okay, just quick, one more thing before we go on to the fun bits and things like that. Off-roading again. The Dakar, we mentioned Mr. Loeb's come second, and like Christina Gutierrez has done there, and they've debuted. Was it the best result for a debut of a car with the Hunter and everything? And you've gone on and done the Extreme E with Mr. Hamilton's team. Obviously, like the Rally Raid, it feels like the bread and butter of Prodrive, but the Extreme E particularly is something that's it kind of aligns with the future, doesn't it? With like with what Prodrive are doing on the electric route and the sustainability side as well.
We do a lot on that now, and yeah, I think we all have a duty to do that. You know, we've burnt enough fossil fuels in our lives to sort of, we've got to make recompense somehow. I always sort of look at my granddaughter and promise her that sort of, you know, all right, it's payback time now, and we'll develop new technologies with electric, hydrogen. We're doing all sorts of things like that these days. Extreme E was an interesting program with Sebastian Loeb joined us, and Christina Gutierrez, and we won the championship with them, and it was great to do that electric vehicle. And of course that led on to our participation in Dakar Rally, and so we had we built our own car with the funding from the Bahrain government and the Sovereign Wealth Fund there, and learned a lot with that car, and sort of, you know, we had some great results as well, and Seb was great to work with, still is great to work with, and that in turn led on to you know, Seb been on the podium a couple of times now with the Hunter. Dakar not quite won it. It's always been so close. It's just frustrating. And then of course we got the contract with Dacia now. So this year was our first year. We won in Morocco with the car first time out. Then Dakar, we had all sorts of strange things happen, but NASA finished fourth. But we just won this last weekend now, just finished the event today. We won in Abu Dhabi with NASA again. He leads the World Championship now. So it's but it's a really tricky environment. It's those off-road events, you know. I think actually in many ways they've taken the place of what the World Rally Championship was in the days when Ari and I were competing, because it's they're long events, and the World Rally Championship in those days were long events. The sort of Acropolis Rally would go on for 5 days or 4 days, 5 days, something like that. Hardly any rest. You drive through the night, all sorts. Dakar's a bit like that, and it's but it's pure motorsport, and it's, you know, and they really, the drivers who do that and do well in it, I take my hat off to them, because they're very special. Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely. Things like the Dakar and the Rally Raid, it's a completely unique challenge, isn't it? And it's incredible. Anyone that can get a victory doing that deserves the utmost credit. I am wary of the time. Just quickly, just a couple of things actually. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. We've touched on the P25, which is terrific. But just quickly, outside of Prodrive, you're obviously the chairman of Motorsport UK, and you guys, I've always said you guys do terrific work. You see a lot of comments and things across social media, but I think you guys do a terrific job. There's not much government funding for motorsport and things like that, and what you guys do is amazing. I mean, it's a very tricky role, isn't it? Getting everything aligned.
Well, it's, you know,
it can be.
I've moved from sort of poacher to gamekeeper now in that respect over the last 5 years, and you know, we inherited an organization that was a very good regulator of the sport. It sort of, you know, it's like the referee, and it did a good job of that. It was over bureaucratic in my view, and it was sort of slow, and it didn't respond to they didn't regard the license holders as a customer, which they are. They're the customers. The events, the clubs, there are members and and they're important, critically important to the success of motorsport in this country. So we had to do a lot of changes, and now with the team there under Hugh Chambers, the CEO, they've got a wonderful team of people there, and they understand that, you know, what we have to deliver for the sport in this country to keep it going. And we're not just a regulator, we're there to market and promote the sport, to develop it, and not just at the top end. It's not just about Formula One racing and about sports car racing and the top of it, not even the British Touring Car Championship. They can look after themselves. Alan Gow does a great job with the Touring Car Championship. What we've got to do is look after the grassroots. Grow the grassroots, find out ways of making it more accessible to young people, make it affordable, keeping the clubs going at that level. That's the role of Motorsport UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some, and there are some terrific like club racing series and feeder series, I guess, out there. And I said you guys, in my opinion, doing a terrific job. Just very quick before we get into the fun questions right at the end. You were awarded the CBE for services to motorsport, absolutely rightly so. That must have been, was it a surprise at the time? And it must have been a very, very proud moment, of course.
It was a big surprise for me. It's a really sort of, you know, you don't sort of, these things come out of the blue, and sort of, obviously we won the World Championship. My team had won with Colin. I'd been doing Formula One. It was a bit of a heyday for me at that period of time. But it was it's great the sport got recognised, and that's the thing for me. It was recognising the sport. You know, you get these awards for footballers when they win the World Cup, or the top cricketers or tennis players and things like that. But this was recognising our sport, not just me.
Yeah, which is and I think that's a lovely way to look at it, and a measure of who you are as well, which is lovely. Guys, I have seen all the comments coming in. I think we've covered everything generally from all the comments. There's been loads of them coming in, but thank you very much as well. People talking about all kinds of different things that you've done, which we have covered. Just quickly though, we always try and finish up with some fun questions. We said 90 minutes maximum. We're going to try and squeeze it in, because I know you haven't had your dinner yet.
It's only baked beans on toast, so I wouldn't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just actually, one thing I do want to touch on now that Harry has gone. You actually beat his record of 6 straight wins on the Dakar, didn't you, as Prodrive? So that's a nice one to have up on him, isn't it?
No, we haven't done that.
Have you not? I did read somewhere that you had, but never mind.
No, we're still trying. We're never going to beat that.
We can claim it. He's not listening. Okay, just like general sort of fun question, just to wind down with. Part A and Part B. Did you have a favourite driver when you were growing up watching motorsport? And is there any one now who you particularly admire from the younger crop across any series?
I think who are the older drivers, the people I've always admired, and I can't think of any one person. Interesting enough, I'm going to speak at a dinner in celebration of 60th anniversary of Jim Clark, actually, and in Duns up in June. So, and I've been to if anyone hasn't been, it's to go to the museum in Duns is something very special, and to know how much he was embraced and loved by the local community there, and still is today. So he's one of those people that does stand out. And young drivers today, there are too many young drivers to comment on. You know, there are so much great talent out there, and it'd be unfair to single out any one of them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I do love the mention of Jim Clark. To me, he was before my time, of course, but from what I've seen and heard, he was one of the very
great all-rounder.
Yeah, terrific. Is there any? Obviously, you have a finger in many motorsport pies, as we know, with Motorsport UK. Is there any that you kind of follow particularly closely, just for any reason, whether it be Formula One for how it's going, or keeping an eye on WRC, anything like that you're particularly interested in?
Not, I wouldn't say particularly interested in. I've sort of, I dabble, and I'm fortunate enough to get involved in all sorts of events. The thing I'm like most of all these days is just going along to local club events, and sort of, last year I did the Land's End Trial. I've done sort of local 12-car rallies, and I've done sort of odd hill climb and things like that. And the opportunity to do those sort of things, I promised my local motor club I'll do a night navigation event with them later this year as well.
Wow.
So But you've got to stay in touch. You know, the worst thing possible is to think you're supposed to be the chairman of the regulating body, of which I will retire shortly. I think I've done my stint now and paid back my fair share. But you've got to stay in touch, and so you can't just oversee these things from an ivory tower. You must understand what it's like for an organizer, the efforts they make and the sacrifice they make to organize these events, and the local level, and the volunteers who go out in the middle of the night and just stand there beside the road and helping out on these events. Those are the people you've got to get close to really understand, you know, what our responsibility is to help them, to make it easier for them, and to keep younger generations participating. Yeah, I was so fortunate when I was 17 years old to have that luck to be able to do these things. I want other people to have that same opportunity that I did.
Yeah, that's superb. I've just have seen here Aston Dimmock. Hello, Aston. He said, where are we? Race of Remembrance. You said that you were great when you attended that. Obviously, that's gone down very, very nicely. And Craig Homer has said, come up to Nemo Raceway in Gaydon, just up the road from your base, and get Prodrive involved in remote control car racing. There you go. That's
great stuff.
That's something to tick off. He said that you won't believe how much transfers across from full-size racing. There you go. Oh my goodness. Now, our good friend Diffan Evans, evening Diffan. I don't know how to pronounce this. He says, have you ever done is it Cilwendig Rally? Rally down in West Wales? Is that right?
Yeah, Cilwendig. That is probably the most famous road rally that there is.
Yes, I've heard of it. I can't say it. That's
still going strong. And Phil Mills, who was co-driver to Peter Solberg, he and I are still great friends. And a couple of years ago, he said, "Come on, let's do a road rally together." So we were. So I went over to Wales, and we'd agreed he would drive the first half and I'd drive the second half, and we'd navigate each other. And unfortunately, the car broke down in the first half, so I never got to drive, but never mind. But he and I have often talked about doing another event together. And if you want to do one event, it would have to be the Cilwendig. It's the classic road rally of all time. That.
Yeah, fantastic. Love it. Love that. What we got here? Sue Rita said, I remember marshalling on the White Rose Rally, spent my time handing over my mum's fruitcake to hungry co-drivers. Well, that sounds right to me. That sounds lovely. Okay, just another couple of questions before we let you go and have the elusive beans on toast. Obviously, there's so many projects that you've been involved with. I mean, I did mention you've done some work with Ben Ainsley on the yachting and all the pioneering technological advancements and things that you're doing with Prodrive and all the racing and the results and everything else. Is there anything that gives you the most satisfaction? I mean, it's a rotten question because you've done so much, but
yes. You know, I always, you know, going to work in the morning and thinking today's going to be another exciting day and something new is going to come along. And the most satisfaction is seeing smiling faces sort of in the workshop or in the drawing office doing something interesting that they really find sort of, you know, cutting new ground for them, or sort of, you know, giving opportunity to people that never ever thought they'd had that opportunity before. And it's tomorrow. What have I got on tomorrow? I can't remember. I've got visitors tomorrow, people coming to see me, and I'll wander around. Today I wandered around with a pal of mine, going around the workshop, spotting interesting things that were going on and chatting to people. That gives me the most pleasure, just talking to people about what they're excited about and hearing about the projects they're working on.
No, that's lovely. And I just want to say, obviously, every time I drive up the M40, I do always glance over at the HQ and have a little smile, because it's, you know, because you don't see much motorsport stuff at the side of the motorway, so it's always nice.
Exactly.
It's always lovely. Okay, final question, and then we'll let everyone go. Obviously, you've worked with so many terrific drivers, and obviously, you know, people on the technical side as well. But in terms of drivers, you've raced, obviously, you know, we've mentioned like Jensen Button, Takuma Sato, and the chaps at Benetton, and all the guys that you've done with rallying and everything. Is there anyone that stands out in your mind as not being better, but just being a terrific all-rounder, or just your kind of driver, a Prodrive kind of driver?
Yeah, there are a few of them, but I suppose one of if you think about it, and he was on this with you earlier this evening. One of my oldest friends and remains one of my closest friends today is Harry, and I respect him not just because of his driving skills, but because of the person he is and what he stands for. And I think we share many values together, not always the same, but we do share values that we sort of we talk about a lot, and our kids have grown up the same age and chat to each other, and they're good friends as well. So sometimes you meet people in life and you're just drawn towards them and they become friends forever, and that's what Harry is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I didn't say it when he was on here, and I should have done, but I was a big fan of his when I was young, getting into motorsport. So it's lovely that we can end with a nod to him, and obviously we can end on that first world championship that you guys won together. It's lovely to hear. We've run slightly over, my apologies, but that's a great place to end. I did see a lovely comment that I did want to end on, and I can't find it now. But it's basically just saying, someone said, thank you for giving us Prodrive and giving us all of the memories that we've all got from like watching rallying and everything else that you guys have done. It's been fantastic to follow what Prodrive have done across multiple series. And it's been an absolute honor to speak with you, David. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Not at all, delighted. And thank you to all those people who supported us over all the years.
Yeah, fantastic. And I can say that there are comfortably over 500 of them watching right now, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for your support of Prodrive and of this evening. Guys, thank you for all the comments. I think we've covered everything. Sue Reese has said, don't forget to phone Ari. Yeah, thank you very, very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Biggest thanks again to you, David. Very grateful for your time. Thank you.